Life is sometimes like a storm. The dark clouds, they rolled in for me when I was just a little girl. See, when I was little, I was sexually abused by a couple of people, actually. People close to me, people who, I don't need to mention names, but what matters is that it was traumatic, and it was something that I've needed to work through in life, something that as I've gone through this journey of healing, I've had to face that trauma in a way that I can't do without God. And it's this hope that He brings, and I'm really thankful for that. You know, I'm really thankful that the picture hasn't been just one big dark storm. It's been a picture of life and hope. And I became a Christian when I was 12 years old. I went to the front of a church. I was invited by a friend, and we went, and I really had this just deep longing to want to know God. And since then, my life has been totally different. Since giving my life to Jesus, and I don't want it to be cliche about that. It really has changed for me. And like I'll tell you, when I first was about 17 and I first disclosed that I was sexually abused, and I mean there was other things in my life that of course were horrible and terrific as well, but when I first disclosed, I remember walking into the church that I was going to, and it felt like a neon sign on my forehead: abused, abused, abused. And I just had this terrible shame. And the only thing that lifted that shame was my relationship with Christ, and just being able to have that confidence that He is my hope and He is my healer. And if anything, I guess I really recognize that dark storm in my life and the tragedies that I've encountered, they don't have to remain a part of who I am and my identity, but I can be somebody who is able to share the life of Christ, because it's who He is. He is life, and He's a part of my life now. So I'm really thankful for that. I've been working on another layer of healing in the journey and I found out some new information, and all of a sudden it was like, is this really happening to me? I found out information that, once again, I didn't know, but it was more sexual abuse from when I was little. And I was totally thrown off. I wept huge tears, and I kept thinking, I've dealt with this stuff. Like, what is going on? There's more? And God just was totally with me in that moment, because it was so overwhelming for me. I don't even necessarily know how to describe it, except that it was one of these moments where it was so overwhelming. I cried such great tears that my eyes were dried up. And that night I went to sleep and thinking, all I can do is cry out to God. All I can do is trust Him. And I fell asleep that way. So I wake at 4:45 a.m. I'm totally exhausted, and I have the phrase, "The truth eludes and beckons me," in my mind, and I'm thinking, that sounds pretty good. I should write that on Facebook. So I get out my status, start to put it in, about to hit send, when I think, wait a second, I don't even think like that. What does that even mean anyway? And I realize, I think there's more to this. So I'm purposeful to look up the word eludes, and this is what it says. It says to suggest or call attention to indirectly. And I start to think to myself, now remember, this is wee hours of the morning, Father, are you trying to say something to me here? And I feel this real sense of needing to pay attention. And so I start to write out exactly what it is that He begins to unfold, and it begins to be a vision of my life, and at the same time these words begin to flow, and this is what He gives me. The truth eludes and beckons me. broken and shattered I come. His grace sustains me. I'm overcome by His love that I might overcome. Nothing holds me back. I'm like a shepherd boy with a sling, ready to slay Goliath. Humble to know that I'm in the palm of His hands. He gives me the rock, and I know it is finished. No more is my victory song. No more will I bow under words of death or defeat. No more will invasions or lack of peace attack my camp. For my King has placed the victory flag and staked this ground as His. My life is in full gratitude and thankfulness to the King of glory. Now I rest in the peace He offers. I am safe in His arms, and He attends to my wounds. Not only is He my warrior king, He is my healer. I look to Him, and I trust that I will be well. My hope is in Him. He makes all things new. Well, that's a bit of my story of how I allowed God to turn tragedy and trauma into His truth and triumphs. And maybe your story's like mine, maybe it's not, but I guess I hope that this side of heaven that we have the opportunity to share stories with one another. And I'd love to tell you more of how God has given me beauty for ashes. There's so many more good things to tell, but for now, that's all I'll say. And until we meet again, God bless you.
You're with us in the fire and the flood. You're faithful forever, perfect in